Yeah, what's up? This disciple Marcello Currents reign back up in this anti-Illuminati all day, anti-America all day, as you know. So this video is going to be about America making legitimate enemies. America making legitimate enemies. Because in the world we live in the global world we live in, over the years and over the history and over time, there has never been people or nations or individuals or groups of people that have been considered legitimate enemies, meaning they were enemies that were correct for being enemies with America. I would say one of the first legitimate enemies would be the African Americans. Oh, the Native Americans. That's one of the first legitimate enemies. So the Native Americans was the first legitimate enemy. Anybody agree with that? Now we can say forgive, we can say, you know, be the better person, come together, one love. We can say all of this, right? But at the end of the day, let's keep it 100. The Native Americans was the first legitimate enemy of America, what you call America. The settlers, the founders, the people that made this what it is. The Native Americans, number one, was the first legitimate enemy. I'm glad I'm saying this because I'm already hitting the ground running. I'm showing you legitimate enemies, people that you would agree would be correct for considering an an enemy. The Native Americans would be correct for considering America an enemy. Okay, they came here, they raped the land, they literally raped the people, they killed the people, they had no consideration for the people, they gave them nothing, they gave them a little of nothing. In a perfect world, you could say, everybody make up and everybody be friends, but let's look at the other side of the situation. Let's look at the other side of the argument, which is America has created legitimate enemies. Instead of talking about people forgiving the Americans for slavery, let's talk about America making legitimate enemies. Let's talk about the other side of the argument. There's always two sides of seeing everything, right? There's two sides of the story of history, I would say, even, right? You got two positions, you got two stories, I guess you could say. Okay, or two arguments. And we decide which one is right or wrong. Now, let me stay with the Native Americans just for a minute. That's the first legitimate enemy. Right? That's the first legitimate enemy. Now, in a perfect world, like I said, you can sit up and say, well, we have to learn to forgive. Okay, listen, I'm not saying it's a slave mentality, but I'm saying that it kind of is a slave mentality. It kind of is a slave mentality because you're submitted to someone that has never changed their behavior. They have never totally changed their behavior. They have never totally changed 100% towards anyone that's non-white. 100%. 100% rights, 100% love, 100% respect. You've been struggling the whole time to get all of that. You've been struggling to get respect. You've been struggling to get everything. You've been struggling to get money. You've been struggling for proper housing and safe areas. You've been struggling. But yet they telling you to forgive. There's two sides of every situation. Everybody's not seeing it like, okay, we should let it go. Because, okay, forgiveness, let's define forgiveness. Forgiveness in is pardoning, I guess you would say pardoning a person after they've wronged you. Okay? Giving them peace, not giving them war. It's the true forgiveness. No conflict, right? You're already doing that. Now, should you just forget and just ask for no retribution and ask for nothing to be done? And that's what many of these white Americans' definition of forgiveness is. You just walk away with nothing. Native Americans, the same thing. They asking you to walk away with nothing. That's forgiveness. Walk away with a little of nothing. Because in my opinion, and I'm going to do a video about this too, they gave the Native American men casinos. I'm going to go look it up how that all started. But the Americans gave the Native Americans casinos, right? To me, the casinos was to corrupt the good nature of the Native American man. That's a 7. Because if the Native American man, when he was found by the white Americans, he was spiritual, he was in tune with his God. So what do? You make him focus on money and greed. Out of everything you could have gave him, there's many other businesses you could have gave him. You gave him a casino. I think the casinos, I have a hunch that the casinos was given to the Native Americans for spiritual corruption's sake. Okay, you're not going to be here with us. You're not going to be doing all of this. So we got to give you something to corrupt you while you're over there in your corner. That's a 7 Al. We got to give you something to corrupt you and Americanize you. So we're going to give you casino businesses. You know that's good. You know that's good. You know that's good. They gave the Native Americans casinos to corrupt their spiritual nature. Can we all agree that Native Americans are very spiritually inclined people? Very spiritual. They even asked the animal to forgive them once they kill the animal. Very, very gentle-natured people. Then you gave them the casinos. I'm going to leave it at that because I'm going to come back to that on another video. Yeah, I want to get deep in that. I want to get information on it and everything. But think about that. Food for thought for right now. But we're talking about the legitimate enemies. The legitimate enemies of America. Number one legitimate enemy is the Native American man because he has no other land to go to. See, the African American, he can track his bloodlines and go and have a sense of unity or identity with where his bloodlines originally came from. So in other words, he can escape the American experience, the American culture, connecting to his true lineage and genealogy, and find a sense of identity outside of America. We still can do that as African Americans. Although you don't think it's possible, we still can do that. Many people are doing that. We've said it over the years. Go back to the motherland. Go back to the motherland. That that's the best way to explain what the African American can do in order to connect to his identity outside of the American experience and culture and geographics. Now, the Native American man can't do that. The motherland is here. For the Native American man, the motherland is here. How he gonna go back to the motherland? Where is his motherland? You know where his motherland is? Manhattan. That's his motherland. Where they sold acres, they stole and raped the Native Americans by taking acres less than $1. They gave them less than $1 for acres of land. An acre of land was less than $1, right? That's what I heard. That's rape. Okay? So, the Native American man was robbed of his motherland, if you will. He has nowhere to go. Where is he going to go away from the American experience and still find a sense of identity? So that's why I would consider him the number one legitimate. Him making America an enemy is legit. He's the number one legitimate enemy of America if he chooses to be. He can choose to be a friend, an ally, or he can choose to be a legitimate enemy. That's a 7 Al. He can choose to be a friend or ally, or he can choose to be a legitimate enemy. Oh, I know. You think everybody got to walk in that slave mentality where we all got to get along. Well, that day is coming to an end. The Native American man is the first legitimate enemy where you could understand why he's an enemy of America. I'm trying to show you this because they paint themselves as holy and angels. It's almost like these politicians are preachers. Are they preachers? So if they're not preachers, they're not righteous, are they? That's a 7. Are these politicians preachers? Are these politicians real Christians? I didn't think so. So that already takes the foundation away from them as being holy. They're not holy. They put on a suit, they look good, they shave good, but they're not holy. That's for all these politicians, actually. Your governors and mayors out throughout the country, none of them are preachers. I got to do this because you look at them like they're preachers. Don't you think so? These Americans look at the politicians like they're preachers. They look at Joe Biden like he's the reverend. Well, he's not a reverend. And I got to show you that America has legitimate enemies. They're not holy. And it's time for you to realize they're not righteous. And you need to first realize this by really realizing that they have created correct or legitimate enemies. Now you realize they're not holy. Now you realize they're not righteous. The number one enemy that America has that is could be a legitimate enemy of America is the Native American. You took his land, he has nowhere to go. You gave him casinos to corrupt his soul. Oh, come on, that's what it is. Number two is obvious to all, the African American. And listen, I don't agree with terrorism at all. But if anybody was going to be a terrorist, it would be the African American. That's a 7. If anybody was going to be a terrorist in this country, it would be him. Look at all the physical abuse you didn't even do that to the Native Americans. That's why, see, each legitimate enemy is unique in their own way. See, with the African American, you have abused him so much. Wouldn't it be safe? Wouldn't it be logical, human of him to want to abuse you back? To make him, wouldn't it be human of him to want to make you feel some pain? Wouldn't it be human of him to want some real justice? some real money, that would be human of him, right? Right? Okay. So, if anybody was to be a terrorist here in America, I would say it would be an African American. Listen, I don't agree with terrorism, and I'm gonna make it very clear. I'm gonna tell you why. First of all, it doesn't really get anything done. I'm being 100. Okay, you go blow up a supermarket. Okay, then you're in jail or dead yourself, right? Then the whole system you was trying to you're trying to live, right? Okay, so the whole system that you were trying to defeat is still there. In fact, you've made them more sophisticated now. If you were trying to go about doing it that way, when you do it and it's just a supermarket, now the next person that does it, their defense is more sophisticated. So to me, that makes absolutely no sense. In other words, it's a drop in the bucket. I am about bringing down wrong systems, bringing down wrong laws. That's what I'm about. Laws is the reason why you ain't outside stealing everything. Oh, okay. Laws are the reason why your women can walk the streets without being raped. Oh, you think if they ain't have no laws in place, how do you think your women will be treated in your country? How do you think your women will be treated in America, in New York, Chicago, Miami, and Los Angeles? How do you think your women will be treated if there was no rape laws or sexual assault laws? Laws are everything. It's what keeps evil at bay. So I'm about laws. I'm about the right laws. I'm about longer sentences for criminals, whether they be in the government or in the community. This is what shapes our community. This is why you can walk down the street. This is why these grocery stores aren't being targeted by rioters. If you stop the law and say you can go take anything from a grocery store, you know what will happen? The whole stores will be raided. The only thing that's keeping it back is the law. Huh? And some would say the only thing that's stopping from non-white people from being safe is the laws also. These whites would ride around with assault weapons and shoot and kill whoever they wanted to. So I'm not about terrorism. I'm about laws and longer sentences for criminals, whether they be in the government or they be in the community. And so now you see where I'm at. Your law system are now to the point of corruption where you're marrying children. Now you see where I'm going with this. Now you see why I move the way I move. Because laws are what construct our community. Laws are an indication of integrity or corruption. That's a 7, Al. Hey, laws are an indication of corruption or integrity. If you ain't take nothing else I've said already, laws are an indication of corruption or integrity in a community. So you got 44 states for child marriage. You telling me that's integrity? And sometimes the laws can be so bad that it severs the integrity of the country, the integrity of the laws altogether. This is what has happened in America without you realizing it. The lack of integrity concerning the laws is so bad that it has severed the integrity of the law system. Therefore, it severs the law system altogether, and that's why anarchy is inevitable. Because someone is going to conclude, like I conclude, why should we obey this? They're marrying children. Why should I obey anything? Huh? Why should I obey it? And it comes to my greatest point. America has made legitimate enemies because of 44 states with child marriage. That's the new foundation for your legitimate enemies now in 2022 going into 2023. You now have made legitimate enemies based on you marrying children in 44 states. Well, this is against your culture. These people are crazy concerning children. You see them already, don't you? I said like somebody from the ghetto. You see it already, don't you? See, I'm Southern and I got a slight ghetto background. I'll put it like that. So sometimes I might sound a little ghetto. Don't mind me. Ain't nothing wrong with that, is it? That's what made you have legitimate enemies. Now in 2022, you have 44 states with child marriage. Okay, now let me get back to the legitimate enemies before this. Before we found out this information. Before we knew this. Number one, Native Americans. Number two, African American. Like I said, he would be the first. If anybody was to be a terrorist, it would be understandable because of all that he's been through, all that his nation has been through, all the physical abuse and brutality from the police and the government. It would be understandable for him to get fed up and want to blow something up. I know you don't want to. Listen, you need to use your freedom of speech to talk like me. You need to use your freedom of speech to talk like me. Huh? See, the white man can't tell you that. He can't say this. What he blowing up something for? He has all. This is his ethnicity is the ethnicity that defines this country called America. It's not the black. It's not the blacks. It's not the Native Americans. It's not the Asians. It's not the Hispanic or Latinos. What defined this country, as far as history and power and authority, is the white ethnicity, the white American ethnicity. Okay? So why would he be blowing something up? Now, the black man has been terrorized himself. That's a 7 hour. So if he'd been terrorized himself, wouldn't it be kind of human of him to terrorize back? I know. See, I know they got you trained. But I'm trying to show you human nature so you can get off my back. I know in a perfect world, I would do all the stuff that makes everybody happy. But when it comes to human nature, in the end, ultimately, it's going to dictate what happens. Well, it's for listen. If you have done something evil to humans, we're going to look at what the human should feel. We're going to look at what situation the human is in. And your human nature is going to relate to that, have compassion for that. And we're not going to look at the perfect response. We're going to look at the human response according to these human experiences, according to our human feelings. And so what I'm saying makes sense. The perfect response is not what's going to happen. The perfect response is not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is the human response. That's what we need now. The human response. Because you've been given all the perfect responses. That's a 7. You've been given all the perfect responses. They terrorized your community. You humbled yourself and you still went and worked for them. That's in the perfect world, that's what you would do. They took the land from the Native Americans. In a perfect world, you just don't even try to get involved. That's what you did. Everybody that's interacted with the white Americans have given them a perfect response. Right or wrong? We've given them a perfect response. Okay, with the Native Americans, they stayed in there. They stay on the reservations. They mind their business. They don't come out here and do anything wrong, even though the land was taken from them. Right? That's the perfect response. That's the ideal response. In other words. But what about the human response? Where you should have compassion on them, in which something should be done. What about that? And that should take over. And it doesn't mean people have to die. But the human response, instead of the perfect response, because the perfect response I see is one-sided as far as the recipient goes. Okay, we've given the Native Americans, they gave them a perfect response. They stayed at the reservations. They didn't come out here and bother anybody. They could have did that throughout the years. The Native Americans could have came out and did many things to the community. But they gave a perfect response, but it kind of was one-sided because the Americans should have did more for them instead of throwing them casinos to corrupt their souls. The African Americans, you submitted to them, you continue to submit to them, you forgive. You're giving them the perfect response. Now you're interacting with them without any true smoke or beef between you. You're giving them the perfect response. But it's one-sided though. When you give them the perfect response, here's what happens with the Americans. They don't look at it and say, well, let us do our part because you gave us a perfect response or ideal response. Let us see what your needs are. They didn't do it. They're not doing that with you. You give them the perfect response. The legitimate enemies now, hear this part closely. The legitimate enemies, give them the perfect response. The Native Americans, they stay at the reservations. They don't go bother nobody. They don't come out trying to intermingle. Not really. The African Americans stay submitted. They don't really do it. They don't really cause no waves for the white Americans or the government facilities in the system thereof. You gave them the ideal response. But they ain't looked at your needs and they ain't really took care of your needs. You vote for them all the time and they ain't really done nothing. So it's not reciprocated. You've given them the perfect response, the ideal response in a situation. But it's a one-sided response. Where is their response to your ideal response that you've given them? You've given them the ideal response. The Native Americans have and the African Americans have. And here's the punchline. You're both legitimate enemies. You're a legitimate enemy. And you gave them the perfect response. Huh? You gave them the perfect response. And they're legitimate enemies. Huh? But you don't have to give them the perfect response. That's what I'm trying to show you. You're a legitimate enemy. And that's what the white Americans, that's what they haven't come to terms with. And many of you, many black people, and many other people, Native Americans, I think they kind of know. Because this is their land. It's kind of culturally taught to them that, we have the right to feel this way. But see, like I said, with each legitimate enemy, it's unique components and dynamics. With the African American, he feels, we've been pacified because we had to interact with him. So we've been pacified from feeling that we have the right to feel some kind of way, some type of way. He pacified us from feeling that way. But guess what? The pacification wasn't good enough. You sold your pacification for cheap. You shouldn't have been pacified till you got 30, 40 acres and a mule, like you say. You shouldn't have been pacified till you got it. And what I always tell people, and I'm going to do a video about this too, I think I already have, but I've touched on it already. You should have asked for reservation land. The African Americans should have asked for reservation land just like the Native Americans did. Now, I'm not saying it's right, but at least you would have had something that's yours. You have nothing that's yours. And you may look at that as a trap, as a cage, but it's yours, and you could have improvised as African Americans and had reservation land just like the Native Americans, and you could have made something out of nothing. That's a 7, Al. Oh, I'm wrong? You should have reservation land where you can get away from the white man. That's a 7, Al. You tell me who else talking about this like this. You tell me who else is talking about this like I am. You should have asked, that's where you messed up. You should have got reservation land. But you know what you did? You wanted to go live where the white man lived. When you know he hates you, you want to go live to show him what you can do. And you still trying to do that. It hasn't worked for you. It still hasn't worked for you, have it? You still trying to live where the white man live at. You still trying to be where he wants you to, where he at, just to show him you could do what he do. And he killing you all along the way. You following him and he turning around and killing you. That's what it is. Can't you see he don't love you? But you trying to show him I can do what you do. The Native American man didn't do that. That's a 7. The Native American man didn't try to go live where the white man lived. The Native American man does not care about voting like you do. The Native American man has no feelings about engaging this American culture like the African Americans do. And look at it for what it is. He has government land that's his right now. Now you'll say, well, Disciple Marcello, how could we have gotten that land? Because this ain't really our land, so would they have given it to us? You know what your argument should have been? You were raped of a land, of a place to be, just like the Native Americans. You have no land. You were brought here as slaves with no rights. They wasn't even considering you in the law. So you should have asked to be pushed away and kept away like the Native Americans. After all, you just left slavery. So why didn't you ask for reservation land? Boy, that's good. That's good. That's good. And you should have asked for land here in America, but you did not go that route. Instead, you try to go everywhere where the white man was at. You try to do what he do, drive what he drives, live what he live, and it still ain't working for you. You're still dealing with racism right now. Right now. And the Native American man is not dealing with it. And you know what? Ironically, the white American man has more respect for the Native American man than you. That's a 7. He got more respect for him than you. He looks at the Native American man as sacred. And nothing wrong with that. But I suspect that he has more respect for him because he decided to go his own way. That's a 7, Al. He got more respect for the Native American man because the Native American man separated himself and survived and didn't want nothing to do with him. You know why he still hates you? Listen very closely, guys. The reason why he still hates you because you ruined his plans of a white America, undisturbed by other races and ethnicities. You ever wondered why he still got a beef with you? After he done all he done did? What else can he do? He done did everything. He done humiliated you in front of your women. He done made you feel like less of a man in front of your family. He done tried to emasculate you in every way he can. What else can he do? So why he still got a beef then and he got everything? Because at the end of the day, you still ruined his plans for all white America. You remind him of what you ruined. You ruined an all-white America. And that's why he still has a problem with you. Think about it. Think about it. What have you done lately to him? You ain't really done nothing to him. So why is he mad? Because he didn't want you here. He seen all this beautiful land and he didn't want you part of it. Now you see why he's still back mad. Now, make sense? That's a 7. Huh? That's what it is. That's why he got beat. That's why the racist people here, not all white people. Come on now, don't be simple. But a good majority of them are angry at the ones that are angry at African Americans, which would be the racists. Their problem is you are here. You think they wanted you to be here? You think they wanted you to be here? You think they had visions of you being here? Huh? And you just coexisted with them. When they were done with you after slavery, racism did not go away. And although the North won the Civil War, racism did not go away. It didn't. It didn't go away. He didn't want you here. After he was done with you in slavery, he wanted you gone. He probably wanted to put us on the boat and take us back. Probably thought about it, didn't he? I'm pretty sure he did. That's why you still suffer for racism, because he is reminded that you destroyed his blueprint when he looked out on the mountain and the horizon of all that uncharted land here in America. And he sat with his hands on his shoulders. I'm talking about the racist one. He said, boy, this is going to be a beautiful land for our people. You thought he thought about black people? You think he thought about slaves? When he looked out at that horizon, do you think he thought about slaves? When he seen that uncharted land up in the Northwest Territory, up by Washington and all the land, the type of land I'm talking about. All that West Coast land. All the land, period. You think he looked out and seen lakes and seen the ocean and say, this is going to be a great land for the Europeans and the Africans? In reality, racist culture don't want you here. That's the whole smoke concerning racist culture. Is you're here. They're like, why are you here? Hey, I'm just letting you know the attitude. I'm letting you know the real energy. You need to know how they think. They're like, why are you here? Don't you see that you hate it? And see, now you see how they did me. They've been like that on you the whole time. Why are you here? Why don't you just die? Don't you see we hate you? Haven't they been like that with the African Americans the whole time? So in all actuality, it's another race war, isn't it? I know. You didn't look at it like that, but it is. They treated you the whole way. See, it's built in my DNA to withstand this because my ancestors been going through it the whole time. They've been treating us like they hate us for no reason. They've been treating us like they don't want us here. They've been treating us like that. They've been treating us like that. It ain't nothing new to the black man. That's why it ain't working. You think I care about being hated? You think I care about you loving me? I'm black. I don't care. Hallelujah. Thank you for this, Lord. Yeah. See, the real expression needs to come out so that people can get the real information and truth. See, if you don't never really express this, then we don't know how to blueprint properly the articulation to get this done. You ain't articulating it right. Sometimes you can say the right thing, man, and it just works, man. I'm just saying. Look at all the messages that MLK said and Malcolm X said. It was just saying the right thing and it just worked. It just worked. It just worked. Now, what if they wasn't saying the right thing? That's the 7th hour. What if they were not saying the right thing? So in order for them to say the right thing, they couldn't hold back as they articulated and expressed themselves. And now you've been taught to hold back a little bit. Don't go too hard, especially guys with people with white friends. Hey, if you got white friends in America, you scared to tell the whole truth as it is. You need to let your white friends see the real energy. You need to let them see the real energy. But you look at it another way. Well, I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? I'm cool with white people, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to go too hard, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm cool with white people. I ain't got no beef with white people. See, you missed the whole, see, that's how simple you are. Your friends are cool, but the racist government and all of that is not cool. That ain't going nowhere. So you don't know how to have white friends and keep the energy against the enemy? Okay. You don't know how to have white friends and keep the proper energy. Then how can you use them for your advantage? Oh my God, that's good. That's real good. How can you use the white community and utilize them properly for the black community when you're holding back on the real expression with articulating the real expression? Because Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. didn't have no problem with getting white people. They didn't have no problem with having a white following. But see, now you holding back because you don't want to offend your white friends. Oh, okay. Then that means you're pretty simple now, doesn't it? Tell it like it is. You're pretty simple. Because you're not able to see the good white people, and then you're not able to see the bulk of the racist people that are still here dictating your community, dictating how your community moves and everything. Look at Donald Trump talking about getting rid of the Constitution. If that's not a threat to your community, if that's not a threat to your community, you tell me what is. What would you think they would do after they get rid of the Constitution? You would have a martial law, Nazi-like community. They're going to make up all the rules. The rules are not going to, you think the rules are going to be good for black people? Keep it 100. The rules look like they will be dictated by Republicans if a Republican is talking about getting rid of the Constitution. Right or wrong? Well, if a Republican is talking about getting rid of the Constitution, then what is the laws are going and everything thereof going to look like? It's going to look like a Republican country, buddy. And these days, that's not going to compliment you if you're non-white. And you still submitted going to work, and that man talking about getting rid of the Constitution. If y'all don't ring the alarm on that man, you're gonna lose all respect from people like me. Because that man just said it in your face. Let's get rid of the Constitution. What else do he gotta say? What else? What else he gotta do? He ain't putting no real money in your pocket. You still on him. You still on him because he gave you them stimulus checks. Oh, he still got you brainwashed from them stimulus checks. I guess so, huh? See, God worked it out. Well, I didn't need that. I didn't need the stimulus checks. Because all it did was influence the people to be pacified during a time of problems and turbulence so that you wouldn't uprise during COVID-19 and demand more than those stimulus checks. You probably would have got more than those stimulus checks. So they just cut you that check so you wouldn't demand more than that. They beat you to it. Well, what would you have done during the COVID-19 time? You got vaccine, sickness and dying, you're going to have to get some money. So they just threw you a little $1,000 check. Boom, out. You could have got way more than that. Think about it. I'm going to do a message on that. You could have got way more than that. So they beat you to it, though, and threw you a little stimulus check. Man, listen, man. I just have an eye for this. I don't know how I know. I just do. Glory to God. But think about it. With all this stuff that's going on with the COVID, when it first hit, as a community, you could have demanded way more than that. I'm not saying how. I don't know how, but you could have got more than $1,000. Now you see what I'm saying. Considering the crisis and considering how big this was and considering this has really never happened to the American community, you should have got more than $1,000 check a month, Al. Or $1,000 check each stimulus. You should have got more than that. So let's go back to legitimate enemies. Legitimate enemies. So you got number one, Native American man. Number two, African American man, based on the whole history up until now, how he's been treated. He's a legitimate enemy. It would be understandable if he felt some type of way, right? About America. You might not feel that way, but he might. And it would be correct. Would you agree with me or not? That it would be correct for him to feel that way? You got your feelings. You feel how you feel. I'm not asking you how you feel. I'm asking you about the black man. Is he able to be a legitimate enemy of America or not? Yes or no question. I'm not asking, listen, it's a yes or no question. It's not a complicated question. Based on the history of how long he's been here, all he's been going through, all the racism, all the killings, all the stuff that's still going on, all the police shootings, it's not really happening to nobody else but him. Not really. Not really. Based on all that history, do you find it logical and human of him to consider this an enemy? Huh? It's not far-fetched, is it? For him to have that mentality. That's all yes or no? It would be understandable, right? All the brutality. Look at all the stuff. All the stuff. I gotta say it like that. All the stuff. So with all the stuff, it wouldn't be understandable. Would you be able to understand? Whether you agree or not, would you understand? That's all I'm asking you. That's all I'm asking you. I ain't saying if you agree with it or not. Would you understand? Would you feel that he would be able to be a legitimate enemy? Somebody that perceives this country as his enemy. He didn't ask to be here. Huh? He didn't get on the boat and try to come here himself. I'm talking about the bulk of the people. I'm talking about the bulk of the people that are Africans. They didn't ask to come here. Let's keep that in mind. Is it safe to say he could be a legitimate enemy? Somebody that considers this his enemy here with these scraps that you're throwing him? Those are the two major legitimate enemies in this country. Now, everybody else you can't really say. They are legitimate enemies. I mean, come on, let's keep it 100. So, can Hispanics and Latinos be really legitimate enemies of America? You get to come here from Mexico. How can you really say you're a legitimate? How can you consider America a legitimate enemy? That's a 7 hour. How? You get to come here, you have rights, you have thriving communities as we speak presently. Your history hasn't been too brutal. Could you really consider yourself a legitimate enemy of America? Latinos, same thing. Could the Puerto Ricans really consider yourself legitimate enemies of America? Legitimate now. Meaning it's logical, it's not far-fetched, people understand. So will anybody understand what Mexicans really being an enemy of America? Nobody would really understand that, really, would they? I mean, with all the opportunities you have, I'm not hating. I'm not, listen. Just in case you thought I was one of those blacks that feel like Mexicans are taking all the jobs, I'm not that type of guy. Let's just get that totally understood. Let's get that thoroughly understood. I am not that guy. I feel like you can't take nothing from me. I can go get myself. You can't take nothing from me. What's mine is mine. You heard that before. What is for me is for me. You can't take my blessings. That part. So I'm not one of those guys or one of those Americans, whether they be black or white or whatever, that feels like the Mexicans are taking all the jobs. Nah, that ain't me, buddy. I'm just letting you know. Sometimes it's just good to say stuff to clear the air. That's called being 100. It ain't really on my mind. It ain't really on your mind, but I'm being 100. Yeah, that kind of talk needs to come back. Where it ain't really on my mind, it ain't on your mind. But we gonna clear the air on it. That's what real men do. That's why I'm talking about all this. Because sometimes we just need to talk about stuff and clear the air and be 100 and just clear the air about things. That's what we need to do. Well, it might not be so much on your mind, might not be so much on my mind, but we need to talk about it a little bit. But with all the opportunities, really, bro, how could you be really a legitimate enemy of America? Collectively speaking. Now, individually, hey, I don't know what you're going through. Individually, you might be a Mexican guy beat up by the cops, this, that, and the third. They might planted drugs on you, planted guns on you. Okay, you got your individual situation. That's not what I'm talking about. And I'm pretty sure you can understand the difference. Because I don't know you individually to even say that, right? That part. Collectively speaking, I'm saying, how could you be a legitimate enemy of America when they constantly letting while they're constantly letting your ethnicity in here, which means It's a form of acceptance there. You got, hey, look at it for what it is. It's a little bit of acceptance. Letting you in. So I'm going to leave it right there. Puerto Ricans, absolutely not. Now, like I said, individually speaking, maybe you do have a beef or smoke because they did something to you, which they're good for doing. But collectively speaking, how can really Puerto Ricans have a beef with America? Now you see what I'm saying. Same things with the Asians. The Asians have been given Chinatowns in every great metropolis. That's a 7 hour. You've been given metropolises, Chinatowns in every great metropolis. I've seen them. I've been to San Francisco, seen the Chinatown there. I've been here and I've seen Chinatowns everywhere. Down on Canal Street. There's Chinatowns in every great city in America. So how could you really be a legitimate enemy of America? You got Chinese restaurants everywhere. No disrespect. Everybody's eating your food. Business is booming. I'm not trying to be funny. So how could you really be a legitimate enemy? And now I know, listen, personally speaking, and there are times where in history, specifically with Asians, there were times where because of wars and things that were going on, there was tension and there's a lot of stuff going on now. So I'm clarifying that part now. You got a lot of stuff now. They're blaming COVID-19, just ignorant Americans blaming COVID-19 on the Asians, right? But up until this point, in the little bumps in the road in history, right? What can you really say? You got a real beef though, because you got Chinatowns in every great city, yo. That's all I'm saying. So they're not really depriving you of a good lucrative livelihood, right? So how can you have a real smoke, right? You feel me? All right. So in all actuality, collectively speaking, the two foundational legitimate enemies of America, here in America, is, domestically speaking, is the Native American man and the African American man. They are the two legitimate enemies where it's understandable, based on the history, based on real time, based on facts, not talking about no feelings or no biased things or anything. Based on facts, you can agree they are legitimate enemies. They could be legitimate enemies. In other words, they could be people where people understand it's correct for you to feel like that's your enemy. It's correct for you to feel that way. It's understandable. I may not agree with it, but I understand why you feel that way. That's all I'm saying. Now, here's the third installment of the legitimate enemies. The new one, which I represent. Those who have a problem with you having 44 states with child marriage. This is a problem, bro. This is a problem. I know. You know. And what makes it, you think it's all, you think we should it's just another situation. Nah, this has created legitimate enemies. Well, what are you going to be after you hear this information? A friend or a foe? That's a 7. What are you going to be? A friend or an enemy of America after you know they got 44 states with child marriage? It's going to show your integrity or the lack of it, your character or the lack of it, who you really are or the lack of it. You got to choose. You cannot sit here and play games and write in the sand and doodle on paper while I'm talking about this. 44 states with child marriage. Are you a friend or enemy? And this is where we get slaves. I gotta say it for what it is, and this is no certain color. This is about the submission part. This is why I use the term, is because of the submission part. This is where we get slaves or masters, slaves or kings and queens. Because no king or no queen is going to submit to a country that's marrying children in 44 states, and their whole culture is directly opposed to all of it. It ain't none of that in our culture. It's none of that. You don't see none of that on TV. Y'all see child marriages on TV? You see child marriages in the movies. So you don't see it in the culture. That's a 7. So if it's not in the culture, we're not educated or groomed to feel this way or to live this way. It's not our lifestyle, right? If it's not in the culture, it's not our lifestyle. So why are they making laws to marry children when it's not your lifestyle as Americans to marry children? Who is the laws for? It's for you. It's supposed to be for you. So why are they making laws for you that is not your lifestyle? That creates enemies. Now you see what I'm saying. That creates enemies. Yes. You created laws that, you know how crazy Americans are concerning children? So how you got 44 states with child marriage, man? Bruh, I don't care how it's done. Long as it's an option to the American community, that's a problem. So you looking at it, well, it's with parental consent. I don't care what kind of consent, a parental, whatever, non-parental. It don't matter to me. It's an option. That's a 7. It's an option. It's an option to the American community, and that's all I care about. It's an option for your community to marry children. That's all. I don't care how it's done. See, that's how they get you. Well, it's with parental consent. Who cares? It's the fact that it's an option that should have you turned up. It's an option for them possibly to marry a child here. It's a possibility. It can be done. That's all you should care about. The fact that it can be done, which makes it solid as a reality. That makes child marriage a solid reality when it can be done. Bottom line. Sometimes you got to be technical, man, because they're technical on you, and you got to be technical right back. See, it's convenient for them. That's why I love the word convenient. It destroys a lot of flaky, fake people. See, it's convenient for them to try to talk through technicalities. That part. Oh, they want to talk through technicalities and, well, cultures were different. And that's what the people gonna say. Well, your last child marriage law, sir, or ma'am, was passed 3 years ago. So what that got to do with the culture? Huh? Because that's the first thing you want to say. Well, times have changed and culture. Nah, bro. You can't use that. When you got a child marriage law passed 3 years ago, I got you. Boom. Hey. You can't talk about times and eras any longer. You see how God put this all together? I can't take credit for it. I'm showing you the established child marriage laws. I showed you the history where America has the world record for the lowest age of consent in the state of Delaware in 1880, which was 7 years old. They got the world record here. And whatever anybody else tell you, I'm talking about on record by a government. America has the record, buddy. I know. It's unbelievable. You can't make it up. I didn't try to make it up. I found it out. And if that wasn't good enough, they have the world record for the lowest age of consent. That's everywhere. Against China, Asian, all them Asian places where you think prostitution rings go on. You know how they teach us in America? All these prostitution rings in these Asian countries. Right? Right or wrong? You would think that the lowest age of consent is over there, somewhere over there. I'm sorry to tell you, no. It's right here in America, the lowest age of consent in all modern record-keeping history, right here in America, at 7 years old in the state of Delaware. That state had the age of consent at 7 years old. They ain't no excuse for somebody to be having sex, a fully grown man, to be having sex with a 7-year-old girl. There's no excuse for that. No. And that's their record. They got the world record for that. Right? So they got the world record. That goes back to ancient times. They got an established between the in-betweens of 44 states with child marriage. And they presently just passed a law 3 years ago that allows adults to marry children at any age. This law was passed July 1st, 2019. Now you see why this makes legitimate enemies? There's a full spread out of history. That's a 7. There's a full spread out of history concerning this. It's not just one little thing I'm harping on. I just showed you that. Now, if you're simple, say you're simple. I just showed you the world record. That speaks volumes. That speaks total volumes. The world record, bro, that's up against any country you want to name. That part. That don't speak volumes to you. Now, besides that, the middle part is 44 states with child marriage. This is established, who knows how long ago this was. And then, if that's not good enough, the other middle part is the age of consent is under 18 in 40 states. That's the other middle part. That's the other middle part. The age of consent under 18 in 40 states. We're talking about real time while they playing psychological games, Al. The age of consent, that's another law. It's under 18 in 40 states. So that's one law. Can't be slow with following me now. I told you that. That's one law. Then you got 44 states with child marriage. That's another law. That's the middle part that bridges this all together to show you the integrity and character of this country. They got the ancient law, which is the age of consent under 8, which is the world record. That's the age of consent at 7 years old in the state of Delaware in 1880. In the year 1880, that's the ancient part. The middle part, the bridge part between the ancient and the future and the present time is the age of consent under 18 in 40 states. And that's one law. In 44 states with child marriage, that's the bridge that no one talked about during all this other stuff. That's from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. All during that time, we didn't talk about none of this. Think about it. You didn't hear Malcolm X talk about it, did you? Now, no disrespect, but Malcolm X was trying to out everybody about being with these children. Y'all remember that, right? But he didn't take the time to talk about the age of consent and all this stuff that was going on in the American government concerning children. Makes you wonder. Well, he was already talking about the American government. So while he was talking about what the Nation of Islam was doing with children, how come he, as a studier of the government, did not look at the ages of consent in America? And here's the punchline. The world record, which was already there because it was the year 1880 when it happened, where America has the lowest age of consent worldwide record at 7 years old, the state of Delaware in 1880. How come Malcolm X didn't talk about that? How come MLK didn't talk about it? The record was there. It's 1880. And while Malcolm X was talking about what the Nation of Islam was doing, messing with marrying children and this and that, impregnating children, how come Him being an educated man and already having his eyes on the government, how come he ain't talk about what they doing? It makes and I'm gonna leave it at that. And you know I'm right. That's a 7. So we've never talked about this. That's my point. We've never, as a community, doing all that civil rights and all of that time, Rod, we never talk about it. We could have shut this down a long time ago with that kind of stuff. Hey, you've been submitted to it all along. You've been submitted to this foolishness the whole time. Unbelievable. Why they acting like we got a wholesome country that protects children? You've been submitted to pedophilia laws the whole time. You should want smoke, and you should therefore be a legitimate enemy like I am. You've been submitted to foolishness the whole time. You've been believing a lie the whole time. That don't make no enemies. I've been under an assumption. I put it like that. You know this is good, guys. I've been under an assumption that the American government and community protects and love all the children by law, right? By law. So by how you got the world record for the lowest age of consent, though? How you got the world record, bro? Everybody would have thought China, some Asian country, some island somewhere, some other place, not America. It's disappointing and shameful and disgraceful all at the same time. Right? I'm trying to understand how all of this got under your radars over the years. How can this not make you a legitimate enemy? How can you have a problem with me being a legitimate enemy? How can you have a problem with me being a legitimate enemy? Because you are a slave. That's why. They got you hypnotized for whatever reason. They got you believing it's all good. We love the children. They paint these wholesome pictures of your children with you know, on these commercials and all of that. The commercials is what get me. After hearing this information, the commercials is what get me. They show all these images of them, the Americans interacting with children, the children just running up into the hands of the children. They eating pizza with the children. They eating Pizza Hut and Domino's with the children. Meanwhile, you got 44 states of child marriage, big baby. While they eating pizza on Domino's commercials, they got 44 states of child marriage. While they eating Pizza Hut pizza on commercials, they got 44 states with child marriage in the background, baby. It's in the background. Hey, why they making all them cop shows? 44 states with child marriages in the background. All them cop shows y'all be loving. Now you think you a cop. Meanwhile, guess what? While you watching them cop shows, guess what's in the background? 44 states with child marriage, big baby. Ow. I'm just telling you reality. You can't escape reality. So why they making all the cop shows here in America, they're under the laws, wild feminist stuff, of 44 states with child marriage. They're under those laws. The laws are here. In fact, the laws are in the same place with their feminist stuff. That's a 7 hour. It's beautiful, ain't it? It's beautiful. It's beautiful how the Lord makes it work out, ain't it? Yeah. I'm a good North Carolina cowboy. You play with me, you give me I get the right weaponry. I'm gonna shoot a gnat off a bull's butt. And unfortunately, you're in trouble, buddy. You've made legitimate enemies, and now you want to oppress me and demonize me, and you ain't got enough on me. You ain't got nothing solid. Man, come on, man. You ain't got nothing solid, bro. You shouldn't have started with no black man. Don't you know we excel at everything we do? I'm black. I'm not being funny when I say that. If I apply myself to figuring out what these people do, you don't think I'm gonna become a superstar doing that? You played with me and you was slipping 100. You played with me and you slipping all the way. Talking about your president and king. Hey, wait, hold up. Before we get to that part, I need to get to my bag. Well, hey, I need justice. My justice is more important than the king. Suckers, my justice is more important than whether you get a king or your country becomes anything. You understand that? My justice is individual. It's personal. So you can't share what I feel. You can't share my operations and my missions right now. You can't share it unless you really care about this situation. Because I don't care about your situation. It's about justice right now. And it definitely is personal. Oh, it's personal when you slipping with 44 states with child marriage, but you was playing with me the whole time. Listen, I don't care who it was in your community. That's what you need to understand. You're talking about, well, he doesn't know who. I don't need to know. All I know is it is Americans with social security numbers. And if somebody doesn't bring me a bag, all y'all gonna suffer. That's how I figure this out. Hey, everybody want to hide? Okay, you know how we gonna do this? While y'all hiding and we playing hide and seek, that's what I'm gonna do. We bombing. Listen, we spiritually bombing on everybody. You better tell them to get the bag, whoever it is. Y'all been doing a lot of politicking and talking. Y'all better talk about that. Because you already hear the information I got. It just flows out of me. This is who I am. And this is who they attack. That's a bag, man. Stop playing with me. It's a bag. And guess what? If I don't get it, you all suffer. And I have no problem with that. After all, y'all sit back and watch like it's all good. Oh, you know I had to conclude on that. What you thought I was going to let you slide? After all, I'm a black man that's in America. You think I'm going to let that bag get by me? You trip. Hey, listen. This is justice, man. Hey, you call me being an opportunist. You can call me being a con artist. If they wronged you and they're wrong and they got 44 states with child marriage, how am I conning? How am I conning anybody? I'm saying like the dude on Trading Places. Conning you? Remember he was in the cab? Hey, you remember he was in the cab with Curtis Lee Jackson? Conning you? Me conning you? You got 44 states with child marriage. How am I conning you? Sucker? Listen, man. It's literally payback time. It's time for you to pay what you owe. You like Pookie from New Jack City, you owe, buddy. You owe, Pookie. Because if you think it's just white people, hey, it's black people that owe too. I told y'all, this get tricky being here in this country. It's like having cultural schizophrenia. You can't really be with the white people, but you can't really be with the black people either. That's a 7. Oh, I'm wrong about it? One day you kind of want to chill with black people. One day you kind of want to chill with white people. Oh, okay. That's how you know you're American. Because you can't really be with nobody, can you? Keep it 100. You can't really be with nobody. All right, you try to be, but listen, you get played in the process, don't you? Okay. Okay, you can keep faking the funk. I'm going to keep it funky. But the bottom line is this, bro. America has made legitimate enemies. And now everybody wants to act like it's not reasonable. So I had to school you and show you how, first of all, you got two foundation ethnicities that are legitimate enemies right now. Native Americans and African Americans. They legitimate enemies. I don't care what you say. I don't care nothing about no forgiveness. I don't care nothing about none of that. I'm talking about based on understanding the situations. With those two ethnicities, it would be understandable if they considered this country an enemy. It would be understandable. While you got white racist Americans and white Americans, period, trying to pacify you not to feel that way. But yet your situation ain't no better. Everybody else getting better. Everybody else getting better but you. Everybody else getting better but you. Asians got Chinatowns. How come African Americans ain't got no Chinatowns? Mexicans got thriving neighborhoods. We don't know how they even happen. Oh, hard work. That's all that happened. That's what did it. Okay. They got thriving neighborhoods, and we don't really know how it happened. How come you ain't got thriving neighborhoods? You still in the ghetto, huh? That's what I'm saying. So it's understandable for you to be a legitimate enemy. You just going along with the culture, the get along culture. When you see, black and white and everybody else on the commercials, and you feel like that's how you want to be. Good for you. More power to you. But some of us feel like, hey, I could be a legitimate enemy. I mean, even if you talk to a street cat, he will understand. Yeah, you're right, though. I ain't gonna front, you're right. You definitely right, bro. You could be a legitimate enemy all day. Especially your specific situation. Marcello, your specific situation, you definitely could be a legitimate enemy. You'll be understandable. Let alone my ethnicity. That part. And what they did to my family, my bloodline, my situation. That's a 7. But you still acting like it's strange. You know why? Because you are enslaved to submit. You are enslaved. You submit. Like you don't understand why somebody has a problem with America. I can give you a million reasons. You just decide to sidestep those reasons. You just decide to be pacified according to those reasons. Because I can show you in the Bible, man, and sometimes it's just time to go to war. It's not time to be pacified. When Moses got out the Hebrews, what, you gonna just sit there and say, hey, well, it's kind of good here? Moses said, let my people go. Now you can define what let my people go is right now in 2022. You can define that. I can define that. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to define what we need to be let go of. When you got Chinatown and you ain't got Africa Town, and we the one established this country. No disrespect to the Asians. I'm not one of those people that has a problem with Asians at all. But we have to agree that the African Americans should have a Chinatown. So that's let my people go right there. That part. And Moses could have sat around and said, you know what? It ain't too bad. Let's just get along with the Egyptians. You know what I'm saying? Let's just forgive this situation. Let's just forgive this slavery. Let's just forgive this obvious, them on top of us, and we obviously are under them. Let's just forgive this obvious situation of them being on top of us. Let's just forgive this obvious situation. That's how you know you're Americanized, because he made you forgive it, but you ain't got no results with the forgiveness. Well, listen, it's a give and take. Everything's a give and take. We talk about that, right? So where's the give and take in your situation? Oh, you just get to live? That's how they looking at it? Well, we letting you live. That's how the racist white people talk to us. Boy, you alive. That's not good enough. That's not good enough for kings and queens. When we see you eating all kind of stuff for the holidays. When we got to go down the pantry for the holidays. You know what half of these black people doing for the holidays? They going down the pantries while you living literally high on the hog. Okay. And if hard work could have did it, it would have been done it. Hard work can't do everything. For all you black, you progressive African Americans. Oh, I'm glad I said this, and I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna make a video about it. Hard work can't do everything. Hard work can't stop no racism. Hard work can't make you have your own community, thriving community like a Chinatown. Hard work can't do that. Some things hard work can't do. You have to have opportunities with hard work. Hard work has to meet opportunities. That's why you got some people that retire from McDonald's. Hard work didn't get them nowhere. They worked for 30 years at McDonald's. I've seen it. Go look it up. Go Google it. People who retire from McDonald's. Come on, man. You know they weren't making no money. That's sad to me. People that lived all their life working for this corporation. Right? So if hard work makes you successful and wealthy and all of this, what happened? What do you tell the guy that worked his whole life at McDonald's? You know what you're gonna tell him? You should have went out after another opportunity. Right or wrong, guys? You're gonna tell him he should have went after another opportunity. Where hard work meets opportunity. That part, right? Where his hard work meets an opportunity. That's what I'm trying to say. That's a 7 hour. Huh? But if he worked all his life talking about he working hard, just glad for Americans to applaud him because he's working. Then he's never going to be living nothing close to how white Americans live, although he works very hard. Hard work does not mean anything. It's half of the show. It's half of the situation. I ain't gonna say it don't mean anything, but it's half of the situation. It's half of the situation. And that's all they telling you, hard work. You know why? Because they want you to go out there and work hard all throughout their workforce. All throughout their workforce. You know what you don't hear them talking about? Giving you some opportunities as the black community. It's hard for them to talk about that, right? Some real ones. I'm talking about some real ones. Some lucrative opportunities. But we don't hear that part, do we? But it makes you wonder, and no disrespect, how you got Mexican striving communities all around America. Oh, that was just hard work. Bruh, that was just hard work. No disrespect, because I know Mexicans work hard. But you trying to tell me that was just hard work. Come on, man. Stop playing with me. That was opportunities. That was hard work meets opportunity, right or wrong. Small business loans, different loans, like building up a community, giving you different things, grants and all that kind of thing, right? Those are opportunities, not just hard work. China, same thing with Chinatowns. You think that was just because Chinese people work hard? They do work hard and steady, but it wasn't that only. It was also opportunity.